concept behind product is one winner, hundreds of thousands of losers, right? And the amount of time and energy and effort is usually, in my opinion, greater than in a consulting business.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back again. Thanks for tuning in to the Undefeated Underdogs podcast. I'm your host, Sharad. I have to be honest with you. I'm a little nervous today because this special guest actually appeared on Oprah, and I never interviewed someone who appeared on Oprah's show. So it's pretty. I'm pretty nervous, but at the same time, I'm excited. It's none other than today we have none other than Rand Fishkin, the legendary marketer we all know. Rand, I really want to appreciate you for taking time in your busy day to appear on the podcast. Welcome to the show.
My pleasure, Sharath. Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Awesome. So it's as you all know, I just want to introduce the guest, which most of us know, but just to remind what he did in the past and his accolades and whatnot. And honestly, I don't know where to start because, if you ask me to define Rand Fishkin in a word or so, I would say he's the Yoda of marketing. He's done like many things, many experiments, many campaigns, and so on and so forth in this area. Rand is a founder, author. He's an SEO expert, an investor, and a prolific content creator who I came across multiple times on Twitter. And first of all, I think I have to give a shout out to Amanda Natvidad for introducing us. Shout out to her. She's a phenomenal person. Previously, Rand built this consulting turned software company called Moss and grew to 130 plus employees, $30 million in revenue, or 30 million visitors per year on the traffic side. And he is currently the CEO and the co-founder of SparkToro, a fine audience research platform, which is with over 100K plus ARR. And he authored many books. Primarily notable ones are The Lost and Founder. I like the title. He often writes and shares his wisdom lessons on Twitter and YouTube, which I will put in the show notes. And you have to definitely follow some of the tips he shares often. And yeah, that's it. That's the brief intro I have. I can go on and on about this guy, but I want to dive into his mind about how he thinks marketing, the future of marketing, and his experiences in the past. But again, welcome, Rand. Let's right off the bat, I do have a question for you, which is about let's actually go back to 2004. That's when you just dropped out of college and you joined your mom's small business as a web designer, if I'm not wrong. What was your first love towards marketing? When did you think and realize, you know what, I'll make a career out of it? What is there an aha moment, or how did you figure out you'll be in marketing forever?
I don't think I ever had a moment like that. I think it was more of a slow, steady, you do the work, you start to enjoy the work and get good at it, and see some people responding positively, and then try and do those same things over and over again until you find yourself with a career. So, yeah.
So it's kind of you dipped into these toes and you kind of just took a shot.
Yeah, I mean, it was a slow process of, in 2001 when I dropped out of school, the marketing I was doing was web design, right? So what I liked doing was the visual side and the artistic side, but I wasn't good at it. I still don't have any visual arts skills, even though I really enjoy it. And I had to start learning SEO. What was that? Probably 2003, 2 or 3, and practicing that. I wasn't initially a huge fan of it, but what I really liked was, I guess the part of that practice where you're proving Google wrong, right? Google says something on their website at the time, right? They barely had representatives. There was this anonymous person called Google Guy who would sometimes comment on forums at the time. That was the only source of official information from Google. And the reality of the situation was what that person said and what Google would say officially on their website was not always true about what worked and didn't work in Google search. And that was true, that was the case for like 20 years.
Right.
So I enjoyed being able to prove Google wrong, right? Google says this kind of link doesn't work. Like, oh, I don't know. I got that kind of link. I sure look like I'm ranking higher.
Right.
Seems to me like it works. I mean, you say it doesn't, but I'm going to keep doing it because my rankings are going up. Those kinds of experiences I really enjoyed. I think there's some part of me that's very anti-authoritarian, right? I don't like when the big guys win. I don't like when the big guys tell you what you can and can't do.
Right. So, the big brother, if you call. No, I feel, I think that's an interesting angle, right? You basically have an innate passion and curiosity to like prove someone wrong, and that drove towards you to like. I feel like it was the reason behind starting SEO Moz, which was actually turned into Moz as a software company. And it's very interesting what you said about proving them wrong. And before even going into SEO Moz and all that, who introduced SEO to you? Like there should be someone, some book, some article, or you've come across like, you know what, this is quite fascinating. Let me dive a little deeper into this.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, back in those very early days, there were not very many resources. Danny Sullivan, who ran Search Engine Watch, I think he had sold it maybe just as I was learning SEO. And Aaron Wall started blogging right about the same time I did, SEO Book. Sadly, he's kind of gone off the rails the last few years, which is tragic. But, previously, like he and I would collaborate on things occasionally. There was a woman named Donna Fontenot, I think from Louisiana, and she ran a blog that I paid attention to. There were a few other practitioners here and there, right? Like on some of the SEO forums, a lot of them were anonymous. So people didn't use their real names at the time. But that community was very tiny. SEO was probably, I don't know if there was 500 active people on the internet that you could find who were doing SEO in 2001.
So you're
very small.
You're very early into the game. I feel that gave you a little advantage because you're in the top 1%, not even 1%, I think 0.1%. And you kind of, at that time, I feel like, that is, I think, an unfair advantage compared to others. And I think...
I mean, if you get somewhere early,
right,
and that space happens to take off, right? So SEO took off because search took off. And so now SEO is a huge field. And I think a lot of people who are in that field know me and other people, who practiced early in the space because we had that first mover advantage.
Right.
And then, but it's tough to make lightning strike twice, right? So you have to hope that later in your career that the next thing that you choose to invest in is also going to be something that takes off. I think, and sometimes you're wrong about it, right? So a lot of people the last few years have been very excited about Web3 and NFTs and crypto, and I don't think that's a space that's taking off, right? It always kind of felt like a scammy space, and now seems like it probably was just a big scam. I think that there's probably some opportunities in places like conversational AI and AI assistance, right? That's really taking off.
Right.
But a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, right? Chatbots were huge. It was supposed to be really big and exciting. Lots of people are going to invest in it. And Sharath I don't know. I can't really think of the chatbot space. Didn't become super exciting. People don't really use it. Right. There's some edge cases, but I don't know.
And very few, I feel, I have like so many questions there, but very few people are taking like the chat bot space, like, take Intercom or Drift. They invented a category, and they kind of like educated people on that category. And so founders, and especially B2B, in the B2B space, they take advantage of the conversational marketing per se. That's like the category they invented, right? But I feel, going back to the SEO, what made you bet on it? Like, given search was there, and like there were many things back then, especially Web 2, the internet is kind of taking shape. You might have like say, you know what, let me actually, even retail, for example, like, hey, what if I invest in e-commerce or whatever it is, right? What made you like the gut instinct, like, you know what, SEO, that's it, hands down, fully focus on the next what? Like, I think you've been there for like almost 19 years. It kind of partially involved with Moz, in a way now, but you still believe it plays a massive role. So I want to like maybe dive a little deeper into your gut instinct, so people or listeners can maybe inspire from that and use that to put gut instinct what's happening right now in current trends. So that was my reason behind asking that question.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with that is, I think a lot of entrepreneurs will make it seem like they made great decisions because they were very smart and they followed some pattern and logic. And I think that's rewriting a history that didn't exist. At least in my case, it definitely is. I fell into SEO because we had subcontracted some SEO work for our web design clients, and we couldn't afford to pay our SEOs. So I had to do it myself. We had promised that work already, so I had to learn SEO, and then I liked it once I learned it and sort of got good at it and was writing about it. And that turned into a software business, but it was very accidental. I never considered doing anything else. I didn't think about, is search going to be a good space? Is this strategically the right place to put my labor and capital right now? None of that stuff. I think when you look at SparkToro, that's probably where, coming out of Moz, right? I left / was let go, at the beginning of 2018. So was that 5 years ago? And I kind of had some ideas of what I wanted to do next, but I couldn't do anything in SEO because I had a non-compete. So I don't know if you saw actually this morning, Sharath, the FTC in the United States said that they are working to make non-competes illegal.
Wow.
So yeah, this would be incredible because, for people like me, right, I left Moz and I could no longer work in SEO. I wasn't allowed to be in that space.
Yeah, that's a big win. That's a big win. I didn't know that. Thanks for mentioning.
Yeah, very exciting. TechCrunch was writing about it. There was a big piece in the New York Times this morning about it. I think Lena Khan, the new chair of the FTC, is actually an excellent choice by the administration to lead the FTC. I think she actually, she might be the best thing to happen to that organization in a long time. But that aside, the non-compete meant that I had to choose something that wasn't, the space that I was already familiar with.
Right.
And that meant, hey, I'm actually strategically considering, do I want to be in web analytics? That was one of the fields that I thought about. Do I want to try and get into the advertising market? Do I want to try and be, do I want to go out of marketing entirely and do something else with my life? And yeah, in that case, the choice I made was, I want to still be in marketing. I want to use what I've learned at Moz and build another software company that I can hopefully, make into a success, but I don't want to do it in the venture capital way. I want to do, a very different funding structure. I want to keep the company really small and lean. And also, what space is going to be interesting. So at that point, it's more of a considered move, but Moz was not. Moz was very accidental.
Yeah, I love that for a couple of reasons, because I love that story because you're kind of craving or itching or trying to scratch your own, like itch of, hey, what if I just spend some time here? I really admire those accidents, because those accidents turning back right now are great memories, right? Like, you stepped onto something which is unexpected, and wow, you made out of, like, not for yourself, but you turn or change many people's life and made a lot of people better. So I love those accidents. And yeah, kudos to everybody for that massive win. I feel like even I recently sold my tiny startup, and there's a non-compete where I can't build in the same space for the next 24 months. And I'm like, you know what? It makes sense for the buyer, but for me, it's like, I've built an audience in this. I've built specific knowledge in this. I've built a lot of in detail firsthand experience in this. And it's really like going to waste because I can't do, another business in that area. So I feel that's a big win in a way for a lot of people, like founders who had exits, or even for employees who have similar ideas in a company, get out of that company and can do a similar thing. So I love, kudos to that. So you started Moz, and why did you shift from consulting to software? Like, what was the shift? Is there a primary intention because consulting won't sustain long? Is that like there is an intention there, and product is different, right? Product always wins and it scales fast. Investors believe more in product than service businesses. So what was your thought process of going from consulting to like building a software product?
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. A bunch of things in there that I disagree with. One, it was not a thought process. Like I mentioned before, it was accidental. So we had built some tools for ourselves. I wanted to make them public and share them for free. Our developer, Matt, was like, no, we can't afford to do that. Our servers will get overrun and everything will fall apart. I was like, okay, fine. How about we set up a little PayPal paywall where you have to PayPal us some $39 a month, $29 a month or whatever to get access. So Matt was like, I don't want to do it, but fine, I'll build that. And then, 6 months later, we were like, oh my God, this is making more money than our consulting business. But you say like, oh, product always wins. I couldn't disagree more. Product is incredibly risky compared to consulting. So if you look at the survival rates of, product-based businesses, physical product or software, the survival rates, 5-year survival rates are dismal, lower than 25%. Consulting, on the other hand, has one of the highest long-term and short-term survival rates of any business kind. So if you want to be in business for a long time and you don't want to go bankrupt, you want to have something that's safe and secure, consulting tends to be a really, really good choice. Second thing is, I think a lot of people would point to Moz and be like, oh, but you can make a lot more money. Moz was making $50 million a year when you left, Rand. Yeah, it was. But the bad news, I have a lot of friends who run consulting businesses who made considerably more money than I did over the course of their business's life than what I did with Moz. Now, maybe their total top line revenue was not as large, but they also didn't need to raise venture capital, and they didn't have the investment structure, and they didn't have the salary cap that I had, right? They were taking profits off the top of their businesses every year. I was making decent money. I was making the money that you might make as a mid-level software engineer at Microsoft or Amazon, which is good money, but I wasn't making millions of dollars a year, and a lot of these guys and women were. So,
but I think
I don't know, anybody who tells you, "Oh, product is the way to go, software is the way to go," just nope, it's not. Don't believe that. Right now, if you're a capitalist investor, right, and you're like, I want to put money into businesses that I hope can scale, and most of them I expect will die, and most people will go out of business, but a few will be big winners, then software makes sense, right? And consulting less so.
No, but don't you think just out of my curiosity, don't you think that for consulting, you have to be present, right? You have to not physically, but you have to be like present to actually give an advice or do work for others. You're basically kind of renting your time. And I think that is the opposite of wealth creation, right? The wealth creation through product, or these startups, for example, who are product based, have more leverage because they build once and it can be used many times by many folks. Is that like the case? Like take Airbnb, right? Like, for example, take Airbnb as a consulting business. For example, I know like tens of big, I'll be a broker in a way, and I kind of mediate the supply and like direct them to like, these, I don't know, like these homes who wants to rent people, for example, just for the sake of the conversation, versus building a product where you don't have to be there. It's self-serve. You just like use it and people can get benefit out of it from both parties. That's a marketplace idea, but maybe like a
all right.
fit.
Sharath, real talk, man. Like, come on. Show me who at Airbnb is not present in that business. I met the founders years ago, Y Combinator.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys were working their tails off, probably as much or more than any consultant. They were definitely renting their time to Airbnb, right? They were working very hard, many long hours, lots of stress, lots of strife, lots of co-founder conflict between them, tons and tons of challenges, and a huge team. Mm-hmm. And for every Airbnb, what do you think? There were 10,000, 100,000 companies that tried to do something in that space and were destroyed by Airbnb because they didn't win. Compare that to, the broker or the person who's consulting with folks in the travel and hospitality space. I bet they have to work less. Most of them probably make more than the salaries of early Airbnb folks. Now, sure, maybe Brian Chesky today is a lot richer than most of them, but this is the whole concept behind product is one winner, hundreds of thousands of losers, right? And the amount of time and energy and effort is usually, in my opinion, greater than in a consulting business. Now, you might argue like, but Brian and the team, like they could have left Airbnb, 7 or 8 years into it once the product was mature and probably still have made money, right? They could have like retired at that point. And a consultant probably has to work for 20 or 30 years before they can retire.
Right.
Sure. But what about all the losers who tried to build something in the hospitality space, some software product, some platform, some marketplace, and they didn't succeed, right? So we're comparing the outlier, the absolute most successful one business that made it in that space, to a bunch of consultants who probably are all doing fine. So it's just, I don't know. I don't fundamentally agree that there's something superior there.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
And I say this as a product person, right? Like I haven't been a consultant in, 15 years?
Yeah. Even SparkToro is a product. So I think, I feel from a making money standpoint, maybe yes. I think there are from getting rewarded. I don't know. I feel like, it's still, maybe I'm too biased because I started my whole career as a product person, never saw or reaped the rewards of consulting as such. But yeah, I think I do see your point. There, the amount
and a lot of successful consultants, right? They'll build a team and they can walk away just as much as or be an executive rather than a practitioner. They're no longer renting their time. They're just, building up the team's time and very, very different kinds of businesses, but no, one is not superior to the other.
Yeah.
I think the problem is that there's a perception among a lot of founders like you and I that has been created by investors who have a biased perspective that those investors want labor to believe that they should chase the 1 in 1,000, 1 in a million, become Airbnb. Don't build yourself a comfortable business where you own 100% of it, right? That works against them. They don't want that, right? They want you to own 4% of a business where they own 50%, and you're generating product style, scalable revenue for them. I'm not sure we should not fall for that grift.
No, I think I do agree. I think you and I feel like I agree on one part, which is what you said. Nothing is superior, or no path is the right path. You have to go with your gut. I will change that for sure. I'm a product person. I love to build products. So I'm not biased towards...
That's why I do it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like you. I love building product. I like the potential, that it offers. I understand the field. I like what software can do. There's one thing I hate about consulting, and that is the sales process, right? So if I'm a consultant and I'm having this conversation with you, or anybody, right, I always feel like I have to make people like me.
Correct.
Because I'm kind of always selling, and I'm always like trying to build relationships, and I don't know, it always felt
inauthentic.
Messed up.
Yeah, it messed up.
Yeah, inauthentic. Exactly.
Inauthentic. And it feels like, even to your point, I very recently started like a small, tiny consulting gig for myself for helping like early stage founders. And I see the pain, what you're saying, what you just said, which is you have to put your energy, effort to impress others, which I think for people who believe in authenticity never work. So
yeah, it's hard.
It's really hard to convince others. And especially when you're trying to sell a service and a promise that which is in the near future, not now. Unlike product, you get the instant value, at least like in the most cases, right? You use a product and you get value. So consulting, maybe that's why I'm like kind of, favor to building a product. But I think I do agree on one thing. And I also want to point out what you said is a lot many investors, again, right? We live in a society where people try to program us, especially, right? And most of them, like you said, to their benefit, they try to program in a way that they make us believe that one path is superior than the other. So I feel even I spoke to I bootstrapped my thing, where I actually honestly believe in building a VC company has more advantages. Let's park that discussion for other time. But I used to hate bootstrapping.
You sure you don't want to just spend an hour fighting about that?
I have like more important questions to answer. But
okay, all right.
To wrap up this, I used to think wrongly about bootstrapping, because I used to think that there is no risk. There is like kind of you grow very slow at your own terms versus like growing fast, rocket ships and all that using like VC money and building that hype and whatnot. So, and when I shout out my tiny little startup bootstrapping, that I saw tremendous advantages of owning my own business and not having other people or selling the equity to other people, because I have complete control. And when I did the exit, I had no one to answer to except to myself. So I feel there is pros in every path, and there is no right path. You just have to feel 100% convinced that, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and you just do it. So I think, we should do another episode about bootstrapping versus VC. I want to learn about your thought process there. But yeah, let's switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about you built the whole $1 million business, and I saw in your bio that you went through a depression, and I want to understand. It's such a sensitive topic, and these days many founders are talking openly. Thankfully, like they're sharing their views, their lowlights more than their highlights, and it helps other people to like recognize those. And being vulnerable on the internet is actually a superpower, in my opinion. I've done it many times. I recently had a very bad time. My wife got miscarriage, and we're dealing with that. And I was like kind of vulnerably put that out, and a lot many people were kind. They shared their love. It actually helped me, right, to process through the grief. So I want to talk like, how was those days? Like, what was your mindset back then, and what are some things you did to overcome? Because you're a guy at that time under spotlight. You're like not like a nobody. People are watching you. Your friends were watching you. There are people are rooting for you. So how was the whole episode or the period you went through that phase?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I wonder if that spotlight made it harder. Let's see. So first off, I'm so sorry about your loss. That's a really hard thing to go through, Sharath. And yeah, I have a lot of friends who've had similar in family, and yeah, that's a tough thing. I will say, in terms of my mindset, so one thing I'm pretty sure is true is that I think there's kind of, I don't want to say two kinds, but there's definitely these people who undergo kind of deep sadness and mental and emotional changes because of a catalyst, right? Something happens to them. There's, a loss, there's an event, trauma, something like that, that causes it, that kicks it off.
Yeah, like a trigger.
In my case, I can't point to anything. I don't know of anything that was a trigger or a trauma point. As best I can tell, it was more like a chemical change, right? So, I went from relatively high functioning and, optimistic and a positive, generally positive, friendly person to, I would say more narcissistic, more, definitely vastly more negative outlook on everything. Really struggled to think clearly and process well. And that change seemed to happen sort of, I wouldn't say overnight, but over the course of just a few months, and then stuck with me for a good 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think, in a lot of cases, like I think a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist or something, someone would say like, oh, well, that's this kind of depression, which is, fundamentally different from something that's caused by a traumatic event, or by a specific trigger. But yeah, the weird part of it is you think that your thoughts are logical and make sense, but in hindsight, in retrospect, and from the perspective of other people, you seem off.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I thought I at least had the self-awareness to recognize, hey, my decision-making here is problematic. I should do something to try and address this on the business side, because I was the CEO at the time, right? Obviously, and leading this very fast-growing company that I think probably, if we as the team had made good decisions over the next 4 or 5 years, probably could have IPO'd, been a very successful company for its investors and for the team and all of that kind of stuff. Obviously, that did not happen. I ended up stepping down as CEO, and talked to my board, and we promoted the chief operating officer at the time. And the next year of the company went kind of okay, and then things got rockier and went downhill. The company raised more money in 2016, a little bit more money, but couldn't get an outsider round, so it was an insider round. And then, kind of went off the rails from there. Had some bad layoffs a few months later. Very much lost the market to competitors over the next few years. And so, by the time I left in February of 2018, Moz was on this very slow growth path, which as a venture-backed software company just doesn't work well.
Right,
so I think Moz was growing at maybe 7 or 8% year over year, maybe 9%, something like that. Just not enough to be interesting. And yeah, the company sold. When did it sell? I think it sold to a private equity company in 2021, I guess. And that transaction, the details of it aren't public, and I'm not allowed to reveal them. But you can look at the acquiring company. They have to make disclosures because they're publicly traded, so they have to make disclosures about the companies that they buy. They bought 2 companies in that quarter. One of them was very, very tiny. So I think any outside observer would be like, well, they must have paid less than $5 million for that company. And I think, and then their total purchases for the quarter were like $80 million. So you're like, okay, I know roughly probably how much they paid for Moz. Moz had done its last investment round at $100 million valuation. So you know for sure that whatever it was purchased for, it was less than the last valuation, which of course is terrible for everyone's stock and all that kind of stuff. So I think, my depression, my episode was, I think you could almost say like not catastrophic for the company, but it definitely destroyed a ton of value for that business, right? If I'd been a fully functional operational CEO, I like to believe that it would have done better. Maybe if myself and the board had chosen someone different, or had made some changes at the leadership level, when the signs were pointing to problems, we would have done better. But yeah, man, it sucked. Not just for me, right? All the people who work there, all our customers. The knock-on impact, terrible.
And I'm so happy to see you, helping others and producing the content and building SparkToro with Amanda, Casey, and it's been a joy to watch you, Rand. And so thankful that it ended and something new started with you. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is, of course, obviously, about marketing. And in the sea of marketing categories, there are like so many ways people can market, startups can market. There is content marketing, email marketing, paid SEO, and all that. What do you think founders should start? Like if someone has started to building a startup in 2023, what advice do you give for them?
There's no universal advice. Anyone who says, "Oh, every founder should do X," is wrong. If you're in, it depends on the sector you're in. It depends on who you are and what you're good at. It depends what kind of team you've got. It depends what kind of product you're selling or services, who you're selling to, all of that stuff. There's no good singular answer. I do recommend universally, I've got a blog post about this, but choosing a practice that's at the center of 3 overlapping circles. Circle number 1, thing that you are personally passionate about and good at, right? So if you're like, I hate email, I hate doing email, but I guess I should build an email marketing practice. Maybe you shouldn't. You probably will not be good at it. I've never seen anyone be like, ugh, I hate doing email, but I'm so talented. No, that's not how it works. Second one is somewhere where your audience actually pays attention. So, for example, if you are trying to reach, late teens, early 20s retail buyers, email is probably a terrible way to go.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And if you're trying to reach, professionals in the B2B world who tend to be older and more advanced in their careers, and you want to do TikTok marketing, probably not a great idea either, right? So go to places where your audience pays attention, right? On the subject that they're actually on. It could be the case that lots of the people that you want to reach are on TikTok, but that's not where they discuss or consume content or expect to find the thing that you're doing. The same could be true for Facebook or Pinterest or Reddit. Like, yes, they might be in those places, but that doesn't mean that's where they're paying attention to your subject in the, in that place. And then the third one is somewhere where you have a unique value proposition over the competition.
Right.
You're doing something that no one else or almost no one else in that sector is doing in that space. What is that? Like, if you're doing email marketing, do you have the best long form email content newsletter? Do you have the best short form list of links newsletter that rounds up the industry? Do you have an email that is very conversational in style and builds a lot of relationships? Are you doing, very advanced, trigger-based emails that, hey, if someone does these 6 things inside our product, we send this email, which is the most helpful thing to them right there. You got to have a competitive advantage, right? You got to have something you're doing uniquely from everyone else in whatever sector you play. So you find something at the intersection of those 3, you're going to do well.
I really love that. It's like, I think I tweeted about this. It's about like building startups. I kind of drew 3 things. One is you have to scratch your own itch. It should be your own problem. You have to build for a big market, which is massive, which is, there's like a market who wants to like use the product, and there should be like a problem to be solved, right? Like there should be a real problem and people are actually craving for a solution or trying to find alternate, ways to figure that out. So in a similar way, I really love the 3 circles, which is you have to be good at something. It can be content, can be email, take social, for example, and there should be enough attention that people can consume that the thing you're good at, and I feel the third thing, what was the third thing, which is
a unique value proposition, right? You got to have an advantage over your competitors.
I love that.
Doing something unique.
I love that.
Okay, Sharath, on your building a startup thing though, I like 1 and 3. Like 1 and 3 make a lot of sense to me. So 1 being scratch your own itch, do something that you're familiar with, sort of have that founder market fit issue. And number 3, which I generally agree with, is solve a problem that people are actually searching for, right? So like, hey, real people have this real problem. They're frustrated by existing solutions. They want something new. But number 2, build for a big market.
No,
I don't like it. I disagree with it. I think the only people who really have to do that is if you're trying to convince a venture investor to put money into your business, then you have to build for quote unquote a big market.
Like a big TAM. Okay.
Big TAM, exactly.
Right.
But everybody else, I recommend against doing that because you will be competing with all the venture-backed companies who have tons and tons of money to throw at it. Small markets are often turn into big markets. And what's considered a small TAM could turn into a 10, 20, 50, $100 million a year business.
Right.
And it's only a venture investor who believes that's too small. Right. So just throw that out if you're anyone except someone who's trying to chase funding.
Okay. Point noted. For sure. Awesome. I think couple more follow-ups on the founders front. One is, what do you think founders are doing wrong when it comes to marketing?
I mean, again, this is one of those, everybody's doing something wrong differently. So there's no universal wrongs. I do see a lot of founders wait to do marketing until their product is launched. And I think that is generally a terrible idea. My recommendation for most products, most builders, most founders is do marketing around your topic and in your space and around the problem that you're solving, even before you have any kind of solution to market, so that when you do launch, you have a big email list, a bunch of people following you, lots of people already paying attention to you and knowing your name and expecting something from you. Yes, it puts more pressure on you to launch something that's high quality and good, but it is also a great way to get off the ground. So SparkToro is a good example of this, where, basically while Casey was building the product for the first 18 months, 20 months or so of our existence, I was doing lots of marketing, right? Speaking at events, going on podcasts, blogging,
Right.
Content marketing, email marketing, social media marketing, all that kind of stuff to build up an audience for SparkToro. And then that audience essentially turned into our first customers. And when we launched, I think it took us only 6 months to get to profitability. So we basically launched in April. We're profitable by October. Break even profitable, we're not like raking it in, but that's huge for us, right? For a business like ours, not venture backed, we want to survive for a long time. We want to be profitable for a long time. That was a huge relief, right? To know that this business could survive and could pay our salaries and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That I think that survivability is a huge win, and I would recommend that to anybody else. I would definitely do that if I were doing any other kind of business again.
Start early. That's I think the best thing to do. And I think
build that fandom, right? Build the people who are expecting something great from you. Find the people who really have the problem. So many founders I know are like, hey, we just launched on Product Hunt last week. Now we're looking for some marketing help.
Yeah. No.
Oh man. Oh no.
That's a big terrible mistake. I think it's really important. I feel like I kind of absolutely agree on your point, which is you have to build a community before building product. A community plays a massive role when it comes to marketing, when it comes to sales, when it comes to like growing, scaling, basically everything. I think that's why I feel my prediction in the next 5 years, there are like in the last 10, 20 years, we saw a wave of product driven companies, probably product marketing and all that. Number two, there are like sales driven companies, like, for B2B, that's heavily sales driven. I feel the next 5 to 10 years, the community driven companies, are going to play a massive role. Community plays a massive role. And I want to understand or learn from you as well. How important do you think community plays a role when it comes to marketing in your experience building SparkToro? Community can be like a couple things, right? Not just community I brought through Slack or I brought through like one specific place. I think that's a community many to many. I'm also interested in learning from you about audience building, which is like you will have a massive audience that really, of course, will help if you do like anything, regardless of like SparkToro, like starting from zero, you will have an unfair advantage over many people, right? So how important people should realize about the role of community building, audience building when they're building like startups?
Yeah. I don't think everyone needs to build a community. I do think almost everyone needs to build an audience. Very, very difficult to be successful, with the exception of some hyper enterprise focused sales efforts.
Right.
Most everyone needs an audience, right? You've got to have the groups of people who are paying attention to the messages that you're sending across whatever medium you're using. And very frequently that's email. Sometimes it's social media. For some businesses, it might be text based.
Right.
But yeah, without that, I think you're probably sunk. And I would say community is a niche play, right? It's kind of it's great for some businesses and probably wrong for most businesses, that many to many community model, whether that, we're talking about Slack or we're talking about, a private forum, or we're talking about social media, right? A public community, even some email communities. I would argue that's, maybe right for 1 in 500 businesses where the model really syncs up well, and you have these active participants who make the brand part of their professional lives. SparkToro has both a community and an audience. Our community, I would say, is much smaller. It's maybe a couple thousand, 5,000 people, and our audience is a few 100,000 people, right? Who
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
have tried the product, subscribe to us via email, follow us on social media, something like that, right?
Right.
That's the audience. And then the people who, regularly join our monthly webinars, office hours with Amanda and I, who came to Spark Together, right? Our virtual event, which we're going to do in person this year.
I love that, by the way. Shout out to that event. I really like the idea of Spark Together when Amanda mentioned. Yeah, shout out to that. Yeah, I didn't mean to stop you.
Yeah, no, Spark Together was, the one in November was incredible. It blew me away. I was glued to my screen for like, what did we do? 6 hours? It's incredible.
Right. Yeah.
Who knew? Just so exciting. And I think the in-person one, that energy is going to be, 10x, but
off the charts. Yeah.
Yeah, off the charts. But that's the community, right? And then there's the audience, and you don't necessarily need both. You can do one or the other. I think almost everyone needs an audience. I don't think everyone needs a community, and it's a big investment. If you haven't previously built a community, managed a community, engaged with the community, it's tough, right? Because the expectation there is very different. It's not a broadcast at me.
Right.
It's an involve me, put me in the show, like make me part of the universe of what you're building. It's a challenge.
It is. And I completely agree with you on what you said about not everybody needs a community, but everybody definitely needs, at least you have to have a sole audience. You don't have to necessarily have an audience for your brand per se, but you definitely, as a founder, if you're starting in 2020, there is like no negotiation whatsoever about building an audience on Twitter, on these platforms, TikTok, because it massively differentiates. And I actually realized the other part, which is it was very hard for me to understand and digest the fact that not everybody needs a community, because I was completely like in this bubble thinking that everybody should freaking build a community no matter what. But I quickly realized, I spoke to like many founders while helping them. If they are like, I think it should be like a strength you have to play, right? Like for community building, the person who's building a community should really love people, or else it won't work. If it's a namesake thing that other startups are doing, I have to do that, then you're signing, for failure. I feel once I realized that, I think, I shouldn't pressurize people to like, hey, you have to build community for whatever reason. And I started like kind of not advising that way, what you said. If you are really passionate about people, you have really passionate about a certain niche that you feel you can contribute, and that you think if you die someday, someone can actually replace you, or there is conversation still going on without your behalf, that means that you're signed up to be a great community leader, right? So I love that. So let's kind of talk about SparkToro a little bit. I know like we're kind of over time. I hope we can spend a couple more minutes on this, because I really want to understand, first thing, how the hell a 3-person team can build such a big business, like a 3-person team. When Amanda said, I was actually completely shocked, because I from someone who's actually observing you guys, I don't know like many of the details about the team, but when she mentioned that you, Amanda, and Casey, that's it. Like there is no manpower whatsoever.
Nobody else. Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell? How there? Because I know many businesses with massive manpower are doing terrible. Like, so you must be doing something really right, and really something that can hopefully help like listeners who are also like trying to do the same thing. So I want to understand like what's the secret, if you want to share, Rand? Like what's something? Is it like process? Is it like tight knit deliverables, or like what's going on in the world of SparkToro between three of you?
Yeah, we don't have those things. So there's not a lot of process or layers or anything. There's very little formality, right? We sort of, the three of us agree on projects we're going to work on and what work we want to get done in the next few, weeks and months. And then we get to it quietly and privately. we try actually not to take on too much, right? So we try to do what we call chill work, which is like this idea of, hey, let's leave ourselves a lot of space in any given day. Yesterday Amanda was like, hey, I'm trying to send out this email, newsletter by tonight, but I got to go run and pick up my kid because he's sick at school. So like, we're going to do this other thing instead. We'll do the email next week and we'll send this other email tonight.
Right.
Great. Sounds good. No problem. Right. Like we just change, and the business works around our lives, not the other way around.
I love that.
Which is very unique and different. What I think it really helps us do, like if you were to say, why is SparkToro successful? I think we chose a relatively good space. Audience research is very uncompetitive. Almost no one offers what we offer.
Right.
If you want to go find the demographics and behaviors of an online audience, it's actually really hard. Like it would be very difficult to get the data that we provide from anywhere else. So that, that's like our thing that we do that's unique.
Right.
No one in venture capital, no like VC-backed software startups are chasing this space because they all believe it's too small. So we don't have very much competition, right? Nobody's like trying to play in our little playground, which is great.
Right.
Obviously, I think we got some benefits. The fact that Amanda and I both have audiences that we bring to SparkToro, and we're both very good at some combination of content and email and social media and, community building, all those kinds of things. That definitely helps. And then I think, the real star of the show is Casey, right? So Casey is an incredible engineer. He, can build things and maintain them and builds them in scalable and thoughtful ways. And he's very cost conscious. So, keeps our AWS costs low, all that kind of stuff. And he, he's a genius when it comes to working with big piles of data. He can, make these connections work. He's a product thinker. So, he'll try out the product himself. He doesn't just show me the thing I asked for. He'll like tune it until he's happy with it. And then
love that.
Get it there. So yeah, I think that ownership mentality from him is just absolutely huge. And then, like I said, it's no process. Like we meet maybe once every 3 to 6 weeks, we'll have a call with each other. Where
really?
We kind of
wow.
Through. Yeah. And when we have a call, it's mostly like, hey, Casey, how's your backyard coming? Like, Rand, what are you up to? Where are you traveling? Like it. And then, we'll have a little bit of like, okay, I'm doing this. Almost everything we do is run through email or Google Docs.
Wow.
That's it.
I love that.
Super, super lightweight. No project management. Just, hey, I'm going to do this. You're going to do that. Great.
I'm actually positively jealous of what you're saying, what you're doing. No, I think this is amazing. One thing what you said is hit me really hard. It's the companies. Your lives are not tagged, around the company. That's what you said, right? Like the other way around. The other way around.
Exactly. The company works around our lives,
which I think is a conversation that everybody should have when they're building their startups, because usually it's the company that demands and we sacrifice a lot in our personal life. It's not the other way, right? Like we demand and the company sacrifice. I don't usually see that often happen. Like, so I think that flexibility, that transparency, and that kind of like an ownership, like you guys carry for yourself. And I feel like that's amazing. Like I said, I'm very positively jealous.
I mean, it can be that you as a founder can design a business this way, right? Yeah. You get to choose how you want your business and company to work. And people might point to us and say, oh, SparkToro, they could be so much bigger, or, they could have been, they're doing whatever, 1.5 million in ARR. Like they could be doing 3, they could be doing 10 if they, really ground at it and built up a team and did more sales and, whatever it is.
Right.
I'd be like, okay, maybe. I don't know if that's true, but that's not. I would be excited to build a business that helps that many people and that does that kind of revenue, but I am not willing to sacrifice high quality of life and a wonderful business environment where, you know, I almost never have to hire or fire. I've never had to fire anybody. Yeah. You know, we've hired one person, Amanda. We just keep it really chill. And that, that's worth a lot of monmoney to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's worth a lot of money to a lot of people, and they don't realize it.
That. Yeah. Where did you get that? If you think about it, like it's that there is a level of contentment, like that there is a level of, I want this and that's it. I don't want more. I don't want less. I'm like very, very balanced. Where did you develop that contentment? Is it building these years or?
So I'm going to say, like, I don't have I am still searching for that. What do I want to call it? Enough, right? Like I have enough, or I am enough. I'm not sure I'll ever feel that way in my life. I don't, that's not me, Sharath, right? Like I have that, I need to do more. I need to do better. I'm not good enough. I carry that guilt with me all the time. But I do take active steps, especially with SparkToro. I take active steps to try and mindfully manage that, recognize that it's a part of my soul and who I am. And also, okay, knowing that, what am I going to do about it? I am going to take breaks. I'm going to plan trips. I'm going to invest in things that, you know, bring me joy and happiness that are not necessarily connected to the business. And also I'm going to do hard work when I want to do hard work, and I'm going to try and live up to the expectations I have for myself and, you know, strive to make the business better. I think SparkToro is, you know, 1/10 of what it could be, maybe 1/100th of what it could be. And I want to build it to be the best thing that it can be in a healthy, happy, balanced way. What I definitely know that I don't need is I don't need to sacrifice all the other things in my life, or ask anybody else to say, you know, Casey or Amanda or anybody we might hire to sacrifice those things.
I love that.
In order to get this to some arbitrary number of revenue or some arbitrary growth percentage, you know, like you would do with a venture-backed business, right? So
yeah, I love that. I absolutely, you know, kind of noting some of the points you mentioned, and I'm going to definitely build something even this year or next year. But I wish that for myself as well, which is being in the moment, being in control, and doing things that you really love to do. That's it. And not worrying about these imaginary goals that you put because of someone else put their in the goals for themselves, right? I think you chase your own race, doing your own thing, and you know, and life's good. Love that. You know, I think there is a level of deep insights there for people who are listening. You know, be content, you know, with what you have. Be happy.
I mean, a lot of people, right? A lot of people in our world would call what SparkToro does, they would use this pejoratively, right? They'd use it to try and demean and insult us. They would say, oh, well, that's a cute lifestyle business, right? And what they're trying to do is say, you are worse than me. I am trying to build something big, which means something real, which means something that impacts the world somehow, which really means I'm trying to make more money faster than you're trying to make more money.
Yeah.
Like, great, man.
Good for you.
Yeah, you think you're so amazing because of that. Like, I don't know. To me, that's no different from the dudes on the beach who think their muscles are bigger than yours. Like, it's just, you know, it is, I'm not impressed. You don't scare me. Like,
yeah. I think you are absolutely right on that front. I think, you know, it's a weird game. I think not many people like yourself are actually making contentment mainstream. You know, not contentment is the wrong word, but I think being in yourself, being in control.
Is exactly right. Like a balance, something healthy, something where your business is doing well and you like it and it's providing value to your customers, And also, it's not consuming your life in a way that has negative repercussions on all the other aspects of, of what a human being wants and needs.
Yeah.
Like, well, why would you do that? Why would you make yourself deeply unhappy and, suffer and struggle if you don't have to?
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people have to. They have no choice, right? They're, you're, I don't know, working on a farm. You're, a janitor. You're working at a car wash. You're, working at a gas station. Like that's hard work. That's way harder than what I do.
Yeah.
I look at those folks. I'm like, Jesus, man. I mean, I don't care. You work in security at the airport. Like that's a hard job. You're on your feet all the time. You can't be late. You have to do these hours. Like anybody who points to an entrepreneur in the software world and is like, well, I work really hard. Yeah. Hell no, you don't. No. I know how hard we work. Like this is so comparatively easy. Your intellectual capital may be more valuable in an advanced economy and you're getting rewarded for it, but that doesn't mean you're working hard, friend. Like, go do a shift at Denny's.
I know. So a lot many people don't know. I think maybe I mentioned a couple of times. When I came to the US from India, I was a student. I actually worked in my college's cafeteria, and I did like a 12-hour shifts. Not all days, of course, because I have to do my thing. It was freaking hard. I actually have so much respect. I give more tips now. I delivered pizza door to door, so I know how tiring, how impossible that is, and I that's why I feel like very grateful for what we have, or the opportunities we have. It's in the different spectrum altogether. Like what we do is,
I mean, and it's so tough. Like, I worked retail in college and a little bit of food service, and it's not just like the hours and the sort of the mental difficulty of just keeping yourself going through that, but also the fact that the reward is so meager.
Yeah.
Like you're just doing it to stay alive. You're spinning a wheel. Like you're getting nowhere, right?
It's the same repetitive
It's
task.
not like, gosh, if I deliver this pizza really, really well, and then I get this tip, like I can turn that into more pizzas and a better business. You can't. Like there's nothing. You're just going to make what you're going to make. And I don't know. Yeah. Mentally, that's so hard. I'm blown away by people who can do that.
Massive
and
respect to them. They're still doing
massive respect.
Yeah, shout out to all of the folks who do these incredibly hard jobs and yet be happy and content with themselves. I think they're the winners, true winners, in my opinion. So I think last question before I do have like a segment, what I call a rapid fire, where I just ask like some silly questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
I do have like one more question. What's your prediction for marketing in this year, 2023 and beyond? Where do you see marketing in general is going?
Yeah, I think so. The biggest one, it's less of a prediction than hey, I'm pretty sure this is happening. I try not to I think this will happen, but it might not. My guess is that you saw this big fine that Facebook Meta got in the EU. I don't remember, $400 million, $300 million, whatever it was. But basically, along with that fine was a restriction saying that Meta is not allowed to sell personalized advertising based on your activities on Facebook and the data that you give Facebook. The removal of the very concept of personalized advertising, which I think is going to hit Google too. And it kind of feels like the world is trending in this way. But that is, Apple is preventing Facebook from collecting a ton of the data that they were collecting, which meant that they're not able to do this stuff. And we're seeing this world where the duopoly, where Facebook and Google control, 80, 90% of advertising, that has dropped. It dropped to, I think, 49% because of Amazon growing, TikTok a little bit growing, but other retailers, Etsy, eBay, Walmart, they're all doing kind of what Amazon is doing. Smaller players like Pinterest and LinkedIn are selling ads. So we're getting this very different world where you can't do the kinds of personalized targeted advertising that you used to be able to do, where you just throw money at Google and Facebook and let them sort out the targeting. I think that's going to mean a lot of marketers have to do their own legwork. We are going to have to figure out where to reach our customers rather than just letting Facebook and Google sort out all the targeting for us. And we're not going to be able to just use those two platforms to reach people. We're going to have to expand where we do things. I think that means marketing as a whole, the consulting world especially, but in-house marketers for sure. And then, tool and data providers, lots of opportunity. Wow. I see a ton of opportunity there. And frankly, I see, Meta and Google are going to have a tougher time dominating the field in the way that they have.
Nice. I love that. Yeah. It's going to be a very different world. Like, privacy is going to be in everybody's mind. Like you said, I think all people's.
And it's funny because nobody gives a shit about privacy. Like no consumer actually cares about it. There's like 1% of people who actually care about privacy. Almost everyone else is like, sure, TikTok can have access to every password I own. And yeah, that can go to the CCP. I don't care. Right. And it's like, it's a keystroke logger and it listens to your audio and it gives exact locations. And like, TikTok used it to out those journalists, right? They could show exactly where the journalists got the information and all this kind of stuff. Just wild what people are willing to trade. And TikTok doesn't offer you like something that's incredible. It's not paying you money or anything, but you're like, well, for the right funny cat videos and dancing videos, like I will give up all my privacy. So I don't think anybody cares about privacy, but governments regulate.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? There's a few people who care, and they are the ones who are kind of
making it as a
making
law.
the rules around it.
Yeah. Awesome. I think, I want to be respectful of your time. So we will dive into this little thing I do with every guest, rapid fire 5. I just ask like 5 questions. So the first question, which I think you might have predicted, who's your favorite marketer on the internet? And you can say Amanda.
Who's my favorite marketer on the internet that's not Amanda?
Not Amanda. You can't say her.
Oh man,
I know she's your number one choice because that's why she
is my number one choice. I mean, she's so great. Gosh, there's a lot of impressive folks I follow. I can only pick one person
for this conversation, or maybe pick.
Okay, how about this? I'm gonna say Nandini Jami from Check My Ads. I think Nandini is just, Claire as well, right? The two of them together, and Claire Atkin, right? I think they have brought so much transparency and knowledge to the ways that the advertising and ad tech universe have been abused and abusive. And they've built just incredible brands in the last 2 years. Like they are globally known. They are internationally famous. Whereas 2 years ago, no one had heard of either of them.
I love that.
Mind-blowing what they've been able to do. They've removed tons and tons of, abusive people from the ad ecosystem and made companies change their policies and, gotten people like Breitbart and what's his name? All these conspiracy theorists, kicked off of the major ad platforms, taken a ton of money from them. Just incredible work. I'm blown away by them.
Awesome. Yeah, we're definitely going to mention them in the show notes. Question 2, which startup in your opinion is doing the right marketing?
Which startup's doing the right marketing? Oh, gosh. I've been really impressed by what's his name? Nathan from
ConvertKit?
ConvertKit. Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Big fan. Yeah.
I mean, especially recently with, like their transparency and their pricing model, and they're just like, incredibly impressive, empathetic, thoughtful marketing. So many startups are just, biting it in terms of public messaging right now. And it's really nice to see someone who's just like, hey, we're here for you. We got you.
Yeah, I know. I think he's one of those founders who actually truly builds in public, like the ConvertKit, the highs, he shares the lows, the experiments, and all the side projects he do. Everything is his podcast. I love.
I mean, and picking up off of like the Gumroad stuff, like amazing.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, for sure. Shout out to him. So this is like a fun question. What was it like to meet Oprah Winfrey like many years ago? What was the whole? I actually want to ask about the whole proposal, how things went south. Yet you actually cleverly, smartly made the proposal. I saw the video; it was amazing. Shout out to your wife. What was that experience like? Meeting her, being on the show.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it was a little weird. I barely met her, right? Like it was just those few minutes on stage, and
okay,
she was mostly more interested in talking to Geraldine, which was fine, right? I think I said 2 or 3 words to her, but I don't know. It was okay. It was not nearly as interesting as meeting you.
Oh my God, that's a very high praise. I'm flattered.
Well, I mean, look, she's like she's a professional, but I think because she has to be, she's just very distant, right? Like you don't get to know her at all. She doesn't really get to know you. Okay. So yeah, it's a show. It's not a relationship.
Okay. I usually thought the other way. Usually I thought even like folks like Ellen DeGeneres, they kind of like have some talk with the guests and whatnot. But yeah, I think not we don't have to like spend time. It's not value for people who are listening. So you're a big writer. I read many of your blogs, and you write a lot with SparkToro content, and even on your Twitter as well. One writing tip you want to give for founders who are just getting started, or like who has some interest of?
Yeah, just cut out your intro. You don't need an intro. You don't need a conclusion. Just say the thing. Get right to it. You don't need to introduce your subject. Whatever, sort of high school composition class you took, you don't need it. You can just get straight to the point.
I like that. Yeah. I've been thinking about writing. I'm not a good writer. I can write Twitter threads, but I want to like long form write it this year. One of the tiny.
If you're not a long form writer, write short form. Like go for it. It's you have nothing to lose. I do recommend. I mean, the other thing I'd say, join Mastodon. Start posting there. There's no penalty. Twitter has a penalty, right? If you post things on Twitter and they don't do well, your account's reach sinks, and you get in this algorithmic trough, and people don't engage with you. Blah blah blah. It's all these problems. Mastodon, you can just post as much as you want. Anything that works, great. Anything that doesn't matter.
I like I have to check it for sure. Given the fiasco that's happening on Twitter, I have to like.
I know. Yeah, it's really nice too. Like the community there is just lovely. They're all really kind, supportive people. Nice. So, whereas my Twitter mentions are always filled with assholes, I never get any on Mastodon. Like it's just great.
Awesome. Yeah. Last question. One secret that people don't know about Rand Fishkin.
One secret. I'm allergic to stone fruit. That's pretty boring. Let's see. I've never been to Mexico.
Really?
Yeah, I want to go. It's really close, right? I think we're going to go for the first time in January. Let's see what else. I'm not very secret. There's no secrets about me. Like everybody knows all my stuff. Let's see. Oh, I'm very frustrated with the fact that people still associate me with SEO. Like I think it's not a secret, but I have this like, gosh, I can't seem to break away from this, and yet I can't do it because I have a non-compete, right? But I can't seem to get away from people thinking of me as an SEO person, even though it's been 5 years now. So yeah, that's interesting.
Right.
I think I have to figure out my own frustration around it. I think part of it is,
Right. Yeah.
Sorry?
I do agree. I think maybe, I think you have like a keyword associated to you, which is like a kind of like a brand. Like, whenever even
Yeah.
I'm so sorry now that I realized in your intro I just called you like an SEO expert when you're completely.
I mean, I used to be an SEO expert. No longer. If you ask me SEO questions today, I'd be like, I don't know.
Glad that I didn't talk about SEO. I'm so glad, because I knew many people did many interview questions about SEO. So, Rand, this has been like a blast. I thoroughly enjoyed. I think you're one of the authentic people I've ever had a conversation with, and I'm so glad that we connected. We spoke about a lot of things, the highlights of your life as well as the lowlights, and it feels, it feels good to actually have a conversation like this. And I hope and I genuinely feel people get some value out of it. And the goal of this podcast is to like inspire one person and help them figure out in their journey one way or the other way. So I'm so thankful for your time and your inputs and everything you did and spoke to us today. Lastly, where can people find you? Is there something that you want to point out or give a shout out to?
Sure. Yeah. So like I mentioned, I'm most active on Mastodon, where I'm at Randfish. And you can also follow the SparkToro blog, where I write fairly regularly, once every week or two.
Yeah.
That's sparktoro.com/blog.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll keep all those links in the show notes, guys. But yeah, thank you, Rand. That's let's call it a wrap, and see you all in the next episode, guys. Thanks for tuning in.